sun is only getting brighter and warmer as I got a chance today to bring back really a dear friend of the program, big supporter of mine, a guy I consider to be sort of in the middle between our elders and our peers. He somehow fits in the middle of that, always seeking wisdom from this guy and guidance. He has a new album that's about to drop, Spiritual 29, Season 5 of the Tyde. Darren Rademaker, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show.
What's happening, Jake?
Welcome back to the Jake Feinberg Show.
Glad to be back, baby.
Yeah, man. I wanted to read you this quote from, I'm not sure if you were hip to this guy, but he, monster guitar player, Dean Brown, a fusion player from the late 70s, early 80s, played a lot with Billy Cobb, and he's a little bit older than us, and he freaking passed. He just died, man. He had a horrible cancer, and it ate him up, and he's gone. And so it's just a reminder of the tenuousness of life. But I wanted to read you. I was transcribing a couple interviews I did with him. He's a really beautiful teacher and stuff, and I just wanted to riff on this. But he said, when I'm teaching a class or even a private lesson, if the student hears a note in their head while they're soloing, and they know at that point, if they hit that note, it's going to be the perfect note for what they're trying to express, you actually hit it, then that note's the note you thought it was going to be, because your ears were developed enough and your technique was developed enough. So there was very little delay in your ability to hear the note in your head and be able to manifest it immediately. If you do that, then all of a sudden there's this euphoric feeling that you get from doing that. Imagine doing that over and over. It becomes cumulative. All of a sudden, you're actually getting a natural high from playing music. That feeling enables your brain to work better than it works normally because you are so in sync and relaxed. This means you can express yourself even better as the solo goes on. If you've never experienced that, then you're missing one of the most beautiful experiences that exist in music. You're cheating yourself, and the reason why you're cheating yourself is because you don't do enough ear training. I know you're not, Dean Brown was an instrumental wizard, and I know you're not, like John McLaughlin, but can you talk about, even recently as this album, the time when you were able to manifest an octave or a voice, a chord, or a voicing that you were able to manifest in the moment based on your ear education?
I feel like, well, this record's quite different because I mostly play keyboards. And on the times I did play guitar, I definitely reached that a couple times. I play electric guitar only on 2 tracks, I believe, 2 or 3 tracks, I believe. And I think the track that's being released on Friday called Streetwise is an example of sort of my classic rock mixed with new wave noodling that kind of achieves that.
Never been a dealer, but I damn sure knew the deal. Freaking
Exactly.
sick tune, man. Is that McDougal's? Are you playing the synthesizers, or
who is? I'm playing all the keyboards.
Dude, that is the funkiest thing.
Wait. Jake, I'm playing all the keyboards except that funky part during the chorus. It's the Hohner clavinet with the wah-wah.
That's it. Okay, that's not you, right?
And that's Adam McDougal. I told Dan Horn that I had this idea for a part that I can't play. And I just kept staring at the clavinet every time I was there. And he said, Adam's coming by tonight. I'll see if I can talk him into doing it. And I said, yeah, ask him if he can do it tomorrow or whatever when I come by. Because we were working during lockdown. Basically me and Dan most days. Noon till 6, noon till 8, depending on that daytime. And I went home that night. I came back in the morning and Dan's like, it's done. And he played it for me and I couldn't couldn't have been more happy.
Yo, I
It blew my,
cannot believe that I am so. That's one of the best stories I've heard this calendar year so
yeah.
far. That is sick.
There's a record that I like by one of my favorite bands called Felt, called Me and a Monkey on a Moon. And the keyboard player, Martin Duffy, who also played in Primal Scream, and he played on a Dr. John solo record. So that's how good of a keyboard player he is. He died last year, but he did a lot of that clavinet playing on this album called Me and a Monkey on a Moon. And I was thinking of that for this track, and I was thinking, I want that style of clavinet. And all I had to do was describe it to Dan, and Dan described it to Adam, and it was done. And because that's what he does. I guess, I mean, when I see circles, I pretty much watch Adam because I grew up playing keyboards, and he blows my mind. Yeah,
I
he's
mean,
insane.
the difference is, like with circles, I mean, that's a separate skill of playing a part like that. He wasn't like playing a 20-minute jam. That was like the funkiest, greasiest little piece
Yeah,
of insanity.
yeah.
What's the line about never been a teacher, but then you add lessons to the next line? What was that line?
Never been a teacher, but I've damn sure learned some lessons.
Dude, I'm loving this. So explain the germ of this track, Streetwise. I love the name, and it's so funky anyway. So just, I mean, and I guess
I
maybe
just wrote a little.
go ahead.
Yeah, I wrote a little bio about it, and I said that track is inspired by an episode of Miami Vice called Streetwise. That's it. That's where it ends as far as the inspiration. But I imagine like this. Don Johnson's character is named Sonny Crockett or Sonny Burnett in Miami Vice, and he's walking around Little Havana, smoking a cigarette, passing by the street people, and having just a badass guy. That's part of it, and the other part of it is, I'm streetwise. I've done a lot of living. I've done a lot of learning on my own. There used to be this commercial in the 1970s trying to get people to go to college, the college fund, and it was featured a young Abraham Lincoln look-alike. And he's at a job interview, and he said, where'd you go to school? And he said, I didn't go to school, but I did a lot of studying sort of on my own. And I always related to that because I didn't go to college outside of a brief stint at Southern Illinois University when I was in first grade. I always thought about that, and streetwise, the whole idea of street smarts versus book smarts.
I'm loving. Hold on. Did you just say you were a Saluki, Southern Illinois?
Yeah. Well, when I was very young in Illinois, and these are the hippie days.
Yeah.
And I was doing well in my class. I want to say first grade. It could have been second grade. I want to say first or second grade, something like that. And we were living probably in Southern Illinois, somewhere across the river from St. Louis, either Alton or Roxana or Wood River, one of those places. I can't remember. And the teacher's aide or somebody from my school, they had this program at SIU where they took kids to this college there. And basically it was like a hippie school at the college, and there's like, what do you want to do today? You want to draw? Sure, draw. I want to come, and I would be like, I want to come with you to class, to some teenage college student. And I remember going to class with some of these girls, and I don't know how long it lasted, if it was a week or if it was a year. I have but I was briefly
that was the extent of your college education. Wow. Yeah, that wasn't.
That's the extent of my college. But anyway,
yeah. No, this
street smarts versus book smarts. Street smarts versus book smarts, and that's my whole thing about preaching, teaching, learning.
Yeah.
And it's about, I learned a lot from other people on the streets, and I've taught a lot and I'm teaching a lot to other people on the streets. It's kind of like that's the antithesis of the song. And yeah.
I wanted, this is really important because there is musical education especially has become codified. I mean, it's part of curriculums, and it's an assembly line. And unless you're a really heady person who is diving into literature and able to self-teach themselves, you're going to wind up coming out sounding like your professor. And so I'm like, I'd love you to talk a little bit about, I mean, are you somebody who is able to, uh, read a book on quantum physics and then be able to do the problems? I'm just curious if you give a.
No, I have no math brain at all.
Yeah, I don't
I
either. Yeah.
The books I read are just like when I moved back to Florida a few years ago, I just discovered I just started reading Florida authors, weird ones, modern
Whoa.
ones, old ones, basically all the Key West stuff, you know.
Oh, that's sick. Wait, with Key West in like the 60s?
Yeah,
Oh
70s.
my God.
Jim Harrison, Thomas
This is
McGuane,
great.
that crew. And that was that's the Florida that I wanted to be. I mean, I visit Key West often as I can. That world is gone. I mean, Jimmy Buffett has a song called I Heard I Was in Town off his Somewhere Over China album. And it's my favorite Key West song about, it basically talks about a world that's not there anymore. And it isn't, Key West is more about party people on Duval Street and stuff like that. And I can go hang out at Louis' backyard and kind of soak up the Jimmy vibes. And the authors that I read, I try to find their old house. I was in a bar there last time, and I missed Kenny Chesney by 4 days. He's a very commercial artist, but I'm very interested in his ballads. I like him, and I missed him by 4 days. And he played to about 4 people in the daytime at Captain Tony's. The
Oh
old
my
bar
God, that's sick.
where Hemingway drank. And I got in a conversation with a guy that works there, and he goes, "Yeah, Dylan comes in here. He's got a house down here nobody knows about." And all the stools in Captain Tony's have the name of famous people that have drank there. And it took me 4 times to get the Bob Dylan stool, but I finally got it. It's got this author, Tim Dorsey, that I read. He's used to work at the Tampa Tribune, and he writes these stories about Florida, about him, and his character is this guy called Serge and his partner Coleman. Serge doesn't party. Coleman does every drug that somebody will put under his nose or in his hand. And they drive around Florida and they do stuff like, "Hey, Coleman, guess where we're going today?" "Well, here's a hint." And he puts on Georgia by Ray Charles. And he goes, "Oh, we're going to Georgia?" He goes, "Well, that's a common misconception, Coleman. Ray Charles was actually born in Florida, and we're going to visit his boyhood home today." So I looked it up, and it's true. This is a fiction novel, and I looked it up, and it's true. And I recently visited Ray Charles' childhood home last year on my way back from Pensacola, playing with opening up for Circles. And I learned about a lot of Florida history, running drugs through Cockroach Bay, which is about 5 miles south of my house, and just crazy stuff from reading these authors. And I figured in my 33 years of living in California, man, I probably knew everything there was to know about California. But from growing up in Florida, I didn't know nothing. And I've been studying it since I got back.
I wanted to, in terms of the songs, I mean, I'm like, I'm just stumbling into grace, constantly. And I love California. The weather's great. There's a lot of chill cats out there. Obviously,
Totally.
it's way too expensive, but it's also like I don't know what the right word is. I mean, it's too PC. It's too
Yeah.
and I wanted you to talk about did you need to get back to Florida? Not that Florida's great by any means, but it's got its own issues. But did you just want to get back to the Everglades? That sort of like to get
Yeah,
out of the I don't know, man.
absolutely.
There's just a lot of wankers.
During lockdown, we got out of Florida. We came to visit my mom, and she's older and her friends are older. And they said, "Hey, if we die because of you." And I said, "Well, we got to get out of, you couldn't surf in California. You couldn't do anything. And when we got down here, we were going to the beach every day. We went all the way to Key West, a place that I'd never been. It was my first time. And this is like 4 years ago, and I couldn't believe the freedom. I don't talk about politics in
It's
public.
fine, man. Yeah, no,
I
it's,
don't
I'm
talk
just
about
saying the
politics
vibe.
in public. A lot of people think because I moved to Florida that I hate California, and I don't hate California, and I'm probably gonna be back in California because that's where my friends are, and I love it. California's
Right.
got a vibe. The Eagles did not come from California. Graham Parsons did not come from California. People did not come from California, but they moved there and they became California, and that's what we did.
Right.
And that's something that Florida is. Oh, it's
I mean,
beautiful. And
Clapton wasn't from California.
Clapton wasn't from California,
Yeah.
but
No, I
Clapton
mean, what I'm saying is the
Clapton spent a
songs.
lot of time in Miami. He used to live in Miami, and I just, man, I never listened to that much Clapton since I was a teenager, but I've been listening to so much Clapton lately.
Yeah.
And another thing that we don't want to talk about, but I will just say, in the case of some people and their politics, you cannot cancel Eric Clapton. You cannot cancel Van Morrison. You cannot cancel Leonard Cohen. Leonard Cohen is dead. His politics have nothing to do with his music. To me, I don't care. I like the music. I don't care.
Exactly.
I don't care. I like the music. Music is not TMZ. We have the computer. That's the problem with this generation. Man, the only time if I went to Lakeland Civic Center and I saw Atlanta Rhythm Section opening up for UFO, I didn't know what any of those guys looked like unless I saw them in Cream Magazine or Circus Magazine.
Absolutely.
I didn't know anything about them. Are they married? Are they not married? Are they rich? I don't know. I would just went to see the music. And nowadays, like, you got to know everything about what a musician does when he's not on stage or he's not making a record. Who cares?
Dude, I mean, that's the biggest issue, you know. I mean, being a sports broadcaster and being a sports fan, and definitely not as much as I once was, but that there's plenty of that poking around in that social atmosphere, but there's a lot of focus on the craft and the sport itself. And I love that you just brought up the idea of like going to the effing show for the sake of the music to heal. Like that's it. Otherwise, let people be, man.
I don't
You know?
need it. I don't need anybody. Like, I like, like, I got really, I was trying to dive into Florida music, and I learned more about Jimmy Buffett than I ever did in my whole life since the last 10 years, I've only been really studying his records. And the whole Parrot Head, your parents, Corona, that crap has nothing to do with what the real Buffett heads are into. It has nothing to do.
I want to know. Tell me the real Buffett heads. What are the? Because
real
I
Buffett
dig
heads
this.
are into, like, Fingers Taylor, the harmonica player, and
yeah,
Jimmy, and this song, and it's like there's like a kind of a dead thing, and like they make fun of the sound of his acoustic guitar live and the way they mix it, and it became a party and money, and even for Jimmy. But like, I had a couple interactions with Jimmy online where he liked some artwork that this guy made of me and him, and he liked something of mine on Twitter one time, and I just felt a little close to him. But I searched and searched for him when I lived in California, at Malibu and San Onofre, where he surfed a lot. But what I'm saying is, I tried to dive into Florida music, and another band I was really into, I've really been into for the last few years, and I had no other friends that really liked them except for one guy out in California. I got into the Bellamy Brothers. Everybody knows Let Your Love Flow. That was their big hit from the 70s.
Yeah.
But they've had like 50 country hits. If I Said You Had a Beautiful Body, Would You Hold It Against Me? Redneck Girl, all this stuff. But I just got obsessed with them. They have songs that kind of sound like the Byrds or Tom Petty to me. It's like they have these amazing songs, and they're in their 70s, and they're still playing really big in Northern Europe, Scandinavia. They make a lot of money there, but they're from Dade City, Pasco County, Florida, 20 miles from where I went to high school. And I knew Let Your Love Flow in the 70s, but I never really listened to them. Last year, I went to see them in Brooksville, Florida, at the Florida Cracker Christmas. an outdoor at
Oh, this
Christmas
is
time
unbelievable.
redneck country festival out behind this restaurant. But there was 1,000 some people there, probably, cheap drinks, and it was one of the best concerts I've ever seen in my life. They blew me away. It was unbelievable. They're 72. They sing great. Their band was phenomenal.
Wow.
And nobody thinks about the Bellamy Brothers, and they're still out there doing it. They go to Norway and they play like 30 days. But in America, no one cares. I mean, they travel all over America, but they're more known as more of a country act. They got their own brand of weed. They're cool guys.
Jeez. Yeah.
And then other Florida, some other, I always like Southern rock. I went to see 38 Special. There's only one surviving member, Don Barnes, but he's he sings most of the hits, and he's a guitar player, and he's also in his 70s. And I went to see him at a biker rally. Just all these bikers, I went by myself. I got super drunk, and these bikers couldn't have been nicer to me. I had a great time, and when 38 Special played, it blew my mind. They were unbelievable.
That's, man,
unbelievable.
I think the larger point is like you were talking, we didn't really finish that point, but it's like these certain beliefs that people have automatically preclude they hamper themselves from connecting with real humanity. And I think that for you to be able to connect with people and just really at the human core level, that's always what I try to do with cats when I meet them. Like it is about, it's about respect. That's what it's really about. And I'd say, like, you go into somebody's backyard for a concert, biker, you know what, man? I'm just there for the music, man. I don't want to do nothing else. That's it. Let's just have a good time. And I'm not sure so my question is, how are you doing? And I think you've been good at it for a while, but this is the other part that I see with my peers at 45 in some cases, but and it's been through through time. But I wanted to ask you, D-Rad, about how you take what you do seriously, but you don't take yourself that seriously.
That's a great question, Jake, because I don't think I take myself seriously enough, and it's taken 8 years. It's for this new record to come out. I mean, it's really only taken 3 since it's been recorded, but it's taken a long time, 2.5 years since it's been recorded, but it's been a long process. And instead of just seeing, whatever happens, I'm actually actively trying to work a little bit harder in this year and getting back to doing music. I just recently had a conversation with the fellow over in the UK, and I'm figuring out a way for me to go back there this year.
Wow.
It's not my favorite record of last year, which I definitely think you should check out. It's a masterpiece. And although I've been friends with the guy for a while, I never really listened to his music that much.
Yeah.
But this guy, Jonathan Wilson, put out an album called Eat the Worm last year. And it's my album. It was my album of 2023.
Dude, I got to be honest with you. There's no one more. I got to be honest. I will absolutely go cover to cover on that, because that dude, in my limited opportunities to see him play live, Bob Weir went on duo. When I interviewed Bobby a long time ago, Bobby,
he plays
like, how did you wind up?
He plays with he's on tour. He plays on tour with Roger Waters for years now. But his own record, I did not expect it. It's like kind of like Baroque pop and very orchestrated, but the lyrics are what blow my mind, because he talks about my old neighborhood, Echo Park, a lot, where he used to live. He's lived in Topanga for a long time, and he talks about Brooklyn and New York and like kind of hipster subject in a very intelligent way. I just happened to be out there when he had his record release party in Topanga, and we had a great time. And but what I meant to say about that is, he opened up his Instagram to questions recently, and they said, "Are you going to tour with this album?" And I actually saw Wilson. The only time I've ever seen him play was in Paris about 3 years ago, in this circus tent in the middle of a park, and it was really good. Dan Horn was in the band at the time, and I had a great time. But I always liked it, but this album really stuck with me because the lyrics, I think, and I've always kind of liked Jonathan, and he's funny, and we have a running joke together over the years, and it was the first time I really could go to him and say, hey man, this music is amazing. It blows me away. But getting back to the point, he said, somebody asked him, are you going to tour? And even though I saw him in Europe with a 7-piece band with great players, amazing players, it was the first time I'd ever seen John Carroll Kirby play. He's an amazing keyboard player, and he does his own shit now. But what I'm saying is, he said, I can't do it anymore. It's just too expensive. Can't do it, can't do it, can't do it. So what we can do is I've had a lot of people play in the Tyde over the years, but I always looked at it as my ship. And it's really kind of a solo project because I've always wanted to write all the songs, and that's what I've always done. And I call all the shots, or whatever the case may be. But it's basically me. So my brother's done it, and other people do it. You put together a band in another place. I mean, Alex Chilton's done it. Arthur Lee's done it. People do it over the years when they get older. You put together a band over in Europe, and then you just go over there and play with them.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to try to do that, something like that this year. And then when I get back to LA in a few months, I'm going to put together new bands and play some shows in California and up the coast. Because instead of like saying, well, what's the point? We always have to go back to what Dylan says is, what do you mean, what's the point? You're a song and dance man. You're supposed to be out there entertaining people.
That's right, dog.
It ain't about making records. It ain't about that. You're a song and dance man. It's a minstrel show. You're out there on stage dancing around and putting on a show for the people. And I had an old friend back in 2007, this guy that's no longer with us, but we called him T-Rad because his name was Tom Radden. And when we did an American tour, it was the last big American tour that the Tyde ever did. And every night we looked to each other, and we had this one thing that we got from a Cat Williams and Snoop Dogg video where they looked at each other and they say, don't be nervous, do your service. That was our one motto. And the other motto was, we're the gypsies. We're in town for the night. We're going to give these people a show on Tuesday night in Toronto. It doesn't matter if there's 16 people here, there's 600 people here. We're going to give them a party. And that's the way that you should look at music, and it should be fun. And you shouldn't be discouraged. And, the world's a different place. And the fact that anybody wants to listen to what I put out is very encouraging to me. It's no point in being frustrated why you're not as big as other people that you're better than.
We went through that before.
It's a waste. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of
man.
Time.
Dude, love yourself, man, and love what you bring to the table. What is your unique gift?
It's hard not to be frustrated when you say, this writer wants to write about this band, when your songs are 1,000 times better than that guy. But whatever.
I think at the end of and I just feel like things that I'm so cool. If I inspire peeps along the way, that's cool. But my hope is that the work that I'm doing lives on long after I've left this planet, and I think that's it's about leaving legacy, and
you've already left something behind, Jake.
Yeah.
That's the thing. If God forbid I die tomorrow, it's not a huge legacy, but it's a legacy. It's something, and you have to, people write me, I meet people in person in Florida. How do I get my band more popular? I send it to this label, and I said, I don't want to discourage them. And I said, that's not the way it works. There's a magic involved in it.
Yep.
There's a luck involved in it. We used to call it local band feel. How can you rise out of a local band feel and move into, guess what? I just played in Japan.
Dude, you just said local band field?
Yeah. Well, but
LBF, dude. LBF is my new acronym, man.
That's something my brother, that's something my brother used to say.
That is the name ever, man.
But like, we were in Tampa for years and years and years.
Right.
And we were the most popular local band in new wave or alternative music or whatever you call it. And to this day, we still are the most famous indie musicians. I dare anybody to tell me something different.
Mm-hmm.
There's a guy, Richard Barone. He was the bongos. He was very successful. There was a band later on called Merchandise. I don't know what that dude's name is. They got in the NME and stuff. But as far as some people that got international press that were originally from Tampa, whatever. But when we were there, we couldn't break out. We couldn't break out. And that's why I decided to pack up a suitcase with my guitar and move to California. Because
did you finish the tour? Or did you leave before the tour was over?
We couldn't rise above local band feel.
Right.
No. We weren't doing anything anymore. We stopped doing the band. We stopped doing the band altogether, and I just started working 2 jobs, and I saved up to move to California, and it worked. It was a different time. I heard somebody talking about on like a band getting interviewed recently, and it was somebody strange, and he's talking. Well, it was Los Angeles in the late '80s, and man, oh man, that was a different time, and it was.
I mean, remember when I interviewed Vinny Colaiuta when he first went out to California in the mid '70s. He said there were billboards, driving whatever, La Cienega, and there are billboards.
Boulevard. There's books full of them.
Stanley Clark's School Days was on there. I mean, you had freaking billboards of Stanley Clark, and I mean, it's like
everything.
I mean, that's people were like, "Wow, that's hitting." Their ears were huge, man. I mean, that's going back to the original question I asked you. I wanted you to just talk about when early in your musical career that you were able to manifest some voicing or sound that you were hearing, not necessarily how to put it on the guitar, but maybe like a vocal thing, when you were able to sort of reach something that you weren't aware that you had the capacity to do, but you did it. It was spontaneous creation.
Yeah, I was frustrated. I wasn't able to do anything like that when I was young. I just kept working and kept working. The first band I joined, it was the first punk band I saw I'd ever seen. And then I put together my own band of some skateboarder friends when I was 17. And, they asked me we opened up for them, this band, the Straight Jackets, a couple times. And they asked me to join them. And we made a record in Henry Paul from the Outlaws studio. We couldn't have been farther away from Southern rock at that time, but now I'm closer to Southern rock than I am at the punk rock in my own brain. And that record, one of the guys actually put it out on CD, and it got some notice over in England and stuff. But I was just like, I was the 4th member of that band. I didn't know what I was doing. This guy was writing songs. This guy, Lefter Ether, was writing these great songs. I had no ability to write songs like that. And the guy, the singer, bass player, this guy, Bobby, he was great. He was a great singer. I couldn't sing. I couldn't play guitar. I could pass, but I didn't get good until a lot later. I never felt like I really found my voice, singing wise, writing wise, and playing wise until I started the Tyde in the late '90s. That's when I came into my own. I did other stuff that I was proud of and I liked, in the '90s, and it was fun. And I think I did some cool sounds and styles and stuff. And with the Summer Hits, that's still a band that people revere to this day. And there's been reissues of our stuff, and people still play it and ask about it, and surfer kids are into it, and I love that. But yeah, I think there's so much of a focus on nostalgia. I mean, there's so much great music from the past. Like, I learned about country. Everybody knows about your basics of country, but I started getting '80s and '90s country and George Strait and stuff like that, because it was just another mine to dig in that I hadn't dug in before, and I found great stuff in there. Like some of my favorite artists are 80s and 90s country, particularly Keith Whitley, he's gone. Gary Stewart, he's gone.
Right.
Earl Thomas Conley. These guys were amazing and just amazing singers and songwriters and performers, but outside of, dad country, nobody really knows about them except for some heads here and there. But nowadays, I've been playing George Strait records in my DJ sets for 10 years in California, and now people are just starting to do it. It's pretty crazy.
You find the messages, you find that within the lyrics, I know it's two different bags, but you talk about Jonathan Wilson earlier.
Yeah.
And sort of his sort of riff on modern day, hipsterism, whatever. And I mean, you with these, I guess 80s and 90s is not modern anymore, but you find that sometimes I just listen to neo country music and I just feel like not only is it just played and regurgitated over and over again, but it's like more like worship music than actual messages.
Like take a song like this, Whiskey Trip by Gary Stewart. And the first line is, I can almost see me now in Acapulco. And I was like, wow, that's my music right there. He's talking about the islands or some beach stuff.
That's right, yeah.
And he says, and he's not there, but I'm taking me a whiskey trip. I'm just like a sailing ship. And he's just in a bar thinking about that, and I relate to that 100%. The bars I go to down here are bars that if I would have gone to when I was in my early 20s, a new waver or whatever you want to call it, punk rock or alternative, whatever you want to call it, they would have killed me. But you got long hair and a beard, a trucker hat on. I hear the best stories from these people. It's unbelievable. Met this guy in his 70s. He was sitting next to me the other day and at this bar that I go to out here. And I mean, it's redneck. You can smoke inside, but it's mixed. There's all sorts of
I did.
And everybody's cool. But it can be problematic if you stay there too late. I go in the afternoons. And this guy said, well, that's why I'm drinking non-alcoholic beer. He looked like a cross between a Civil War general and roadie for the Allman Brothers. Long gray beard, long hair, long ponytail. And his name was Dewey or something like that. And he started talking to me, and I said, Dewey, that's not non-alcoholic beer. That's a Coors. And he goes, well, it's okay. This is all I can drink. I just have a couple because I got into a predicament last time I was here a little while back. And I said, well, what happened? He said, well, I ran over a couple people in the parking lot. And I said, well, let me get this straight. You ran over a couple people in the parking lot, but yet they still let you drink here. And then right after that, the waitress said, you've had 2-3 beers now. It's time for you to go home. And he got home. And I was like, that's what kind of place it is. And I really like that. And I don't want to be critical of my home of 33 years, but take, for instance, let's go see Mapache tonight. And it's sold out. And here's the part where they're going to play their acoustic songs. But yet half the place is talking in the back because they're not there for the music. They're just there because it's the place to be. And that's crazy. You should be there listening.
Balls out, man.
Or go outside.
I mean, it's funny. On a side note, and this will be the public for the first time people will hear this, but Sammy came up to me a couple years ago, right out of kind of coming out of COVID, and like basically my guttural tribal screaming was really bothering him, and it was throwing him off. And and basically it was I was like bummed, because here I am trying to be fully engaged with the music and also just trying to be part of it. And so I was, and during the next set, I was on my best behavior, and and I'm listening, and there's so much talking going on behind me. And I'm like, these cats are so used to that. They're more
Yeah,
used to people
they are.
distracted by their own freaking narcissism than having a person like it's the fourth quarter of the Niners game with Montana, you know?
They are.
And that's insane. That's insane.
Yeah, but yeah, I heard mention of that, Jake. I did hear mention of that.
No, and listen, you know what?
I
Like,
tried to get, I
you
mean,
know what?
Sammy was supposed to play on my new record. I wanted both of them. There's two acoustic songs on the record, but Sammy was in New Orleans. That was during, it was during COVID, and he was staying there, but Clay was around. And so Clay plays on two tracks and he sings on one with me.
The bottom line is this: that for me, no matter what, nothing is more important than the music. But that's
Yeah,
to me, my question is this. I mean, so you're in a place where Cat runs over a couple people and they're still serving him at the bar in the park, and you're going back to you get taxed and just weighted down by I mean, it's a dark, I mean, as beautiful as the weather is, LA it's a it's a heavy town right now. How are you gonna, you're gonna go back and play music there? You think you relocate there?
I just think that I like it, and there are cool venues, and
Yeah. No, there's a
and
lot of cool
I'm
stuff.
not saying I'm not saying everybody's like that or whatever, like what I'm saying, but I think it's almost cliche with any musician, and it doesn't matter what kind of music you play. Go play in Europe, go play in Spain, go play in Sweden, go play in London, go play in Glasgow. See what an audience is. It's
Right.
it's a different story.
No,
It's a different.
you're 100% right. Yeah.
People are into music, man, and Americans are into music too. It's just like, I mean, everything's changed. I'm an older guy. I'm just lucky that I could still maybe have some people show up if I'm going to play or whatever the case may be. But like I said, it's all about. I can't read my notes because I'm on your thing, but that's like I made some notes for this meeting, and one of them was like, keep it positive.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, it's impossible not to with Jake Feinberg. I mean, but to me, it's like not just positive, but also just like a good energy and a good flow. And do you think that, what are the essential accompanist instruments for the Tyde on a European tour? Would you say, like, are you going to play keyboards, or would you need a drummer, or could you just be a one-man band
I
if you
wrote this whole record on keyboards, but I just sat down and started to figure out the songs on guitar because I don't even know how to play them on guitar. But I'm taking the Dylan approach.
Right.
What's the Dylan quote that I look back to all the time? Hey man, just because the song's recorded doesn't mean it's finished. And I really love that quote all the time. And I just got my tickets to go see Bob Dylan in Clearwater on March 6th. And I got to tell you, it'll take me, and I know every Dylan song, it'll take me 30 seconds every once in a while to figure out, this is Every Grain of Sand? Oh, yeah, it is. This is She Belongs to Me? Oh, yeah, this is Key West, Philosopher Pirate? Oh, yeah, I've been waiting for this one. Like, who cares? I can't recreate there's no way I can recreate the album. There's like so much program stuff. We started off with program stuff. Dan Horn is the absolute best. I recorded my first 4 albums with this guy, Rob Campanella, and I love him dearly. He was a great guy, but I just had to do something different.
Right.
And I just knew Dan was the man. I wish I could have waited till his new studio, but it didn't matter because Season 5 is the name of the album because it's based on life as a TV show. And this is season 5 of The Tyde. This is of my TV show, The Tyde. And on the back of the credits, it says starring me on blah, 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 and all the stuff that I do, singing and keyboards and guitar. But it says co-starring Dan Horn on bass, keyboards, percussion. because he's a superstar and he just understood what I was doing from the get-go and made it happen. And then all the other guys that played, they're the guest stars in each episode because there's a couple of different drummers. There's a guitar player that I only met once or twice, and he plays on some tracks. And then there's Clay from Apache. There's Matt from the All Laws.
Yes.
And it's just like it was meant to be a TV show, and each song's an episode of that season 5. And I think I accomplished that, but there's no way I could go up there with the keyboard that I wrote it on and sing all the songs, and that would be just like going to electronic. It'd be boring for people. So
what in your mind's eye, do you see yourself like going to Europe and having a trio or a quartet?
No, I don't want to talk too much about it, but
no, I'm just saying I like to get this stuff out.
I've been talking to this band that's kind of a rock. They're kind of a rock band.
Wow.
And they said that they'd be interested in backing me up, and I said, "Wow, okay." And I started
man.
And I go, "Yeah, let's do that. That'll be cool. It'd be fun to do that." Because it won't turn out that way. There'll still be mellow moments and whatever. It's not going to be all in your face or whatever. But they're just some guys.
I also think that going back to the Dylan quote about just because the song's recorded doesn't mean it's finished, is that a lot of these tunes potentially could take on a life of their own in the live context.
Yeah. And then people want to hear the old ones, but I want to change them because I think of famous people, and I think of how many times they got to play that song and this exact theme, and how it must sort of drive them insane.
Absolutely.
And I think about that with some of my own songs that we always play. And I was like, how is that fun for me at Zebulon tonight to play Blood Brothers one more time? But yet people want to hear that song, so let's play it. It's like, it's crazy.
Also with Dylan, I haven't seen him in a hot minute for a long time, but apparently he's playing some kind of like fusion shit. Like he's getting out there right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird because I think his last album, it came out during, Rough and Rowdy Ways came out during COVID, but the first song, Murder Most Foul, that came out, and seems to be about the Kennedy assassination. It's about COVID, if you ask me. It's about how the world was feeling, and it's 10 minutes long, and I used to listen on headphones every single night during lockdown.
What's the name of it called?
Murder Most Foul.
And Monkey on the Moon, on the Monkey on the Moon too. You're a lot of M's today.
And there's another song on there, because that was the first song that came out. And then when I planned my trip to Florida during lockdown to visit my mom, the rest of the album came out. And guess what? It was the first time I was planning on going to Key West. And guess what? There was a song called Key West, Philosopher Pirate. And the chorus of the song, if there is a chorus, says, Key West is the place to be if you're looking for immortality. Key West is paradise divine. And I was like, I'm totally locked in with this. I can't believe it. And the first thing I did when I got to my hotel room was stand out on the balcony and listen to that song. It's 9 minutes long, that song.
Wow.
And it describes places around the town. And I went there and I did it. There's a part, there's a little bit about Key West on my new album. And I was just like, it's a magical vortex, just like Joshua Tree, Malibu, First Point. It's a place that I feel at home. And I couldn't believe that Bob was tuned into that too. And apparently, like I said, he's got a stool in Captain Tony's, but he probably goes in there on a hoodie and nobody knows who he is. It's the bar to drink in. I love it. I went there by myself for my birthday last year, and I was there for a few days, just lost weekend style, having a great time.
This is so great because I was going to say they're just like they're just showing up unannounced. I mean, Chesney's playing for 4 people. Dylan won't perform there. He'll just go in and drink there.
No, it's funny because like his band, like Charlie Sexton.
Yeah.
I really loved it. I loved his first album that he put out in the 80s, Beat So Lonely, and he's been playing with him forever. I think the first it might have been the first time my brother saw Dylan, but I'd seen him a couple times. We went to see Dylan at Staples. I think it was Love and Theft. He played at a big arena.
Wow.
And that was the first time I saw Charlie playing with him. And Charlie's been playing with him for years, and he's still playing with him on this tour. He's an amazing guitar player. But the album is uncredited, like this guy Blake Mills.
Oh my God.
Blake Mills plays on it and supposedly produced it or whatever. And it's another 6 degrees of separation, Blake, because Jake, because I've played with Blake Mills.
Wait, yeah, no, because this is so great because
then he plays with Bob. And then one night, a long time ago, about 15 years ago, I was at a New Year's Eve party, and then we went to Jonathan Wilson's studio, and Benmont was there from the Heartbreakers, and we were jamming, and we played Ballad of a Thin Man, and I said, here I am playing with the guy that played with Dylan, another 6 degrees of separation. That was crazy. And I love to tell old people down here, and they say, you look like you're a musician. Yeah, have you heard of anything? And if I do get to talking to them, if I see a guy in a Grateful Dead shirt, I say, I've played with Phil Lesh of the Grateful Dead. Not only on
the common element here for me, the nexus here, Blake Mills, Jonathan Wilson. The only times I've seen them live was at, and I'm not sure where you were at. You weren't there, but was at Neely's a remembrance concert in LA, and it was roaring. It was insane what they did.
Yeah.
And then Benmont, what's so that's how I wanted to end this set, D-Rad, is we talk a lot about like the origins of Florida bands. Mudcrutch, Tom Petty.
Yeah. Amazing.
Did you I've interviewed Tom Ledden and Benmont, but have you ever hung with Petty, or what was your?
No, I never met him. The only person from the band I ever met was Benmont, but
yeah, that's good enough. Yeah.
In high school, the year that first record came out, I'll never forget the guy's name. I traded my copy of Rumors by Fleetwood Mac for the first Tom Petty album to him. Because I thought the Fleetwood Mac was old people's music, and I thought Tom Petty was the future. And now, everybody loves Fleetwood Mac.
Oh my God, yeah.
But here's the thing. Here's just another tip for you. Lindsey Buckingham put out an album 2 years ago, just called Lindsey Buckingham. And I'm telling you, it's absolutely amazing. And no one listens to it except for me. I listen to every song. Another guy I used to play with turned me on to it, and it's unfreaking believable. He's unbelievable. Lindsey's unbelievable. Anyway, enough about that.
What's your favorite instrumental album that you've listened to recently?
Oh, my favorite instrumental album that I always listen to is called Train Above the City by Felt, and that's
whoa, what year is that? It's
from like 1983, I want to say.
What is it? FELD?
It's just FELT.
Wow.
Train Above the City. And it's the guy I talked about earlier, the keyboard player Martin Duffy.
Yeah.
Playing piano and vibes piano and a drummer. That's it.
Dude, I'm going to be rocking that so hard.
Unbelievable. Also, I'm going to send you a link to that.
Please send it along, man. And
because I used to play it for my dad, and I played it for, I think I've sent songs to Benmont before and say, what do you think about this guy's keyboard playing? And I love instrumental albums. In fact, I don't know if you'd got the chance to listen to my new album. It's the first time we've ever had an instrumental.
I've listened to a couple of the tracks, but not, what's the name of the instrumental?
First instrumental ever. It's called Legend of the Lost Art.
Dude, that should be dropping on Friday.
Dude, yeah, I'm waiting for somebody to make a video.
Monster polychords, huge chops from D-Rad, dude.
My girlfriend's dad's got a '94 Corvette with a white interior. Oh. He lives down here, and I want to say to him, "Hey, man, I need to borrow that car because I want to make it, because it sounds like it's only 2 minutes long. It's a little over 2 minutes long, and Derek James plays drums on it, and he kills it. It's kind of like a Manchester, England kind of a rave up, which is some simple, I play some really simple piano and Dan's bass. And Dan's bass kills it.
How long's the track?
Oh, it's like 2.5 minutes long, but it could go on for 10 minutes as far as I'm concerned.
Dude, I'm
listen to that
man,
one. I say the whole album, listen to it. It's like track 5.
D-Rad, listen, I don't know if I want to just tell you, haven't announced it yet, and I'm not sure where you're going to be at, but April 4th at April 5th at Gold Diggers, April 6th at a place called the Healing Center, the Healing Universe. It's in Pasadena. I'm promoting 2 concerts with Dan Horn Band and a band called House Band, which is full of all these insane dudes. And I would be honored for you to be there. I haven't promoted anything in 10 years.
Oh, I'm just gonna miss it.
Where are you gonna be? Where are you gonna be at?
I'm getting back. I'm gonna be in Florida, but I'm gonna be getting back to California a little bit after that time.
Oh man, dude, I'm just letting you know, man. I need you.
But it's gonna be rad.
If you can get some dates on the West Coast, it would be great to meet up in person.
Well, you haven't come, but when I do play my dates on the West Coast, which will be happening, my guess is sometime in May or June, you need to be out there because I haven't met you in person yet. And
I know it's really important, man.
All right.
Yeah, man. Dude, I really appreciate your point of view. And it's very refreshing in this age, and it's not antagonistic. And I just say keep hitting it, man. I don't know if this got through the.
I'm not going to stop. Don't worry.
I'll send you to get. I mean, I'll just tell you magically, like you said. I mean, I made the New York Times last year. Okay.
Yep.
So all I'm saying is like, just keep building one brick after the other, man. Because you know what, that legacy will get bigger and bigger and bigger.
The people that talk about you, Jake, that's 1,000,000 times better than the New York Times anyway.
Dude, dude, honestly, I owe everything to the community that you are a part of, and that
like I said, I say, name a jazz, I said I can't believe the same guy that interviews Ned Doheny.
Ned Doheny, man. What a sweetheart, man.
Or some jazz heavy hitter that I listened to with my dad when I was a kid wants to interview me. That's good enough for me.
Hey, man. Much love to you, man.
All right, brother.
Much love to you, bro.
Much love to you. Thanks again. I'm glad we finally did it.
Me too, man. It was really cool, man.
Right. The planets align. Thank you, Jake.
Peace out, bro.
Peace out.
Bye.
Adios.